Is Matt Fitzgerald dead or alive? Rey Mysterio signs a 2-year agreement with WWE, and is Vince McMahon trying to nick and kill the G1 Supercard? All this and more on Best Wrestling Podcast.
This is Best Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, John McDonald and Matt Fitzgerald. And it begins now.
What is up, Best Wrestling Podcast family? It is Matt Fitzgerald coming to you today in studio. My studio right now is in Montreal, Canada. Beautiful, beautiful city. Montreal, Quebec, Canada, I should add, of course, for everybody listening to us in the beautiful province of Quebec. Want to give you the shout out. Hey, friends, I've been on the road for a while, so you might have noticed my first topic on my solo podcast here today is Matt Fitzgerald dead or alive? And you can thank your lucky stars that I am, in fact, living. It's been a pretty exciting run for me, actually, over the last, it's been about 3, maybe 4 weeks now. If you've been following with the podcast prior to Jonathan taking over here for the last couple of weeks, and shout out to Jonathan doing an incredible job doing some solo podcasts and keeping everybody up to speed with the Best Wrestling Podcast universe and what's going on in the world of pro wrestling. I was living in Edmonton, to get personal with you here for a little bit. I was living in Edmonton. You might recall we were on the Alberta Podcast Network. So Edmonton, for all of our friends that are maybe outside of Canada, Edmonton is a city in beautiful Alberta, in, of course, this beautiful country of Canada. So that's how we were on the Alberta Podcast Network. But as of recently, I have made the move to the city of Toronto, which really is the Mecca, I would say. I know that's just, of course, a personal opinion, but I would really believe it's the Mecca for the whole country of Canada. Biggest city. I do believe the 4th largest city actually in all of North America. And so there is a lot of awesome stuff that goes on out in Toronto in terms of media, in terms of connections. It's going to be great for this podcast. Of course, SummerSlam 2019 is taking place in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So that's exciting. My condo, actually, if you want to do some recon on me, I'll even share with you the location of my new condo. It's in a building called the 10 York, and that's at 10 York Street in Toronto. So it's right downtown. I share that with you because it is a 2-minute walk to what's now known as the Scotiabank Arena, famously for the longest time known as the Air Canada Arena. So SummerSlam is going to be there. You're going to have Raw, you're going to have SmackDown, you're going to have SummerSlam, NXT TakeOver, even some 205 Live is going to be in there, friends. And so it is going to be awesome. So I made the move out to Toronto, and I've been on the road for the last little while. I'm currently in Montreal because I'm banging around these different cities. I went from Edmonton, and then I spent some time in Winnipeg on my travels across the country. Canada's really big, so you want to break up that type of a trip. Of course, it's a move, so we're moving everything. So I went to Winnipeg, and then from Winnipeg, I went to this beautiful little place called Dauphin, Manitoba. And then Dauphin, Manitoba, I went to Toronto for 4 days, 4 nights, and I was condo hunting. And that was fun. Got to check out a lot of awesome buildings, got to check out a lot of neighborhoods. Want to be right downtown where all the sports action is. So once again, 10 York there next to Rogers Center, which once upon a time was a Sky Dome, home to a couple of WrestleManias. Pretty exciting stuff. One of the most notable matches of all time, Rock versus Hogan, happened in what was known as the Sky Dome at the time, and Rogers now has the rights to it. It's the Rogers Center and Scotiabank Place. So that is where I was for 4 days in Toronto. Then from there, I went to Ottawa and had a blast in Ottawa. Beautiful city. Now today, I'm in Montreal all this week, seeing some really awesome people. And then I go back to Ottawa on Sunday, then to Toronto for a day, then actually back to Montreal for a day, then back to Ottawa for 2 days, and then I move into my new condo on October the 1st. So very excited about that. So, hey, why do I share this with you? Why am I getting all personal with you on today's podcast? Well, I just want to let you know that I'm alive and well. If you check out Instagram right now, I did a Instagram live video where I posted some of this information as well, just to let all you BWP fans out there in the BWP universe understand that I am still here and I am very excited to do this podcast. And just to be quite frank with you, I'm really excited to get back into a routine. It's fun being on the road and visiting beautiful cities within this beautiful country. But I'm pumped to get back to a normal routine. And because right now, technically, I'm homeless because I'm not even moved in. I'm going to sign the contract today. So technically right now I'm homeless, just hanging out with incredible people. So excited to have my own home in Toronto, in the Mecca of Canada, and be that much closer to the States. Fired up to go to WrestleMania because that is going to be in New York City. Technically, I think it's New Jersey, but Toronto to New York, I think, is a 2-hour flight. So it is going to be a really exciting time for me to get around pro wrestling culture. But nonetheless, guys, wanted to hop right into it. A couple of things I want to talk about. Once again, Matt Fitzgerald is alive and well and hanging out with you today. Best Wrestling Podcast. Hey, Rey Mysterio signs a 2-year agreement with WWE. Now, this is exciting stuff. I think we all saw it coming for a very, very long time, ever since he's been on the cover of the newest video game. And historically, if you check out those video games, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, kind of almost a little bit of a spoiler, if anything. You got Goldberg that was on the cover. You've got, of course, Rey Mysterio that was on the cover. I do believe Sting was on the cover, and I also believe that Kurt Angle was on the cover all before they made their television appearances back. Maybe with the exception of Kurt Angle. His big break might have been the Hall of Fame, and then maybe he was on the cover afterwards. Now, of course, Rey Mysterio has been back in WWE territory a little bit, making some guest appearances at the Royal Rumble and the greatest Royal Rumble in the wonderful kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But now he is back for 2 years. Apparently, they were struggling because Rey Mysterio only wanted 18 months of a contract, and WWE really wanted him for 2 years to be able to build storylines. So inevitably, what I've been reading is that they have settled on the idea that it's a 2-year contract, but after 18 months, if Rey Mysterio is not happy, it looks like there's a clause where he can potentially get out of the contract. So, I think it works for both parties. But hey, I'm excited to see Rey Mysterio back in the picture. He looked fantastic at the greatest Royal Rumble and the Royal Rumble. I thought he looked in some of the best shape that he's ever been in. So I'm excited to see him back in the ring. I'm really pumped to find out, is he going to be on SmackDown or is he going to be on Raw? And I hope they really use him well. I hope if he goes to SmackDown, I want to see Rey Mysterio in a title picture with whoever the champion is going to be at that time. Maybe most likely AJ Styles, but who knows? It could be Daniel Bryan. It could be The Miz. Maybe it's Samoa Joe. We got some matches going on that are going to depict who's going to be the champion there in the future. And when is Rey Mysterio coming back? Is it next week? A lot of hype talking about he's going to come back for the 1000 episode of SmackDown, which I think is going to be very, very, very exciting. But Rey Mysterio is back. It is exciting. He's fantastic. He brings a lot of value to the roster, and I think he's been used poorly before in the past. I think he's in some of the best shape of his life, and I think it's going to be fantastic to have him in a storyline picture. I'd love to see a match with Rey Mysterio and Daniel Bryan. I'd love to see a match with Rey Mysterio, The Miz, Rey Mysterio, and AJ Styles. Maybe he goes over to the Raw side. We see Rey Mysterio with Brock Lesnar. Probably not. I think there was a little bit of a period of time where Rey Mysterio got the beatdown from Brock Lesnar, but obviously that's probably most likely not going to happen. But we got a lot of interesting things over there as well. Rey Mysterio versus Seth Rollins. Rey Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler, Rey Mysterio versus Dean Ambrose. All really, really great matches. I don't think I'm going to see him in a match with Big Daddy Drew anytime soon, because I'm sure that guy's going to get pushed to the moon. Can't see Rey Mysterio getting anywhere near that Universal Championship. That's Brock Lesnar's territory, getting paid $3 million to be in that championship match over there in the Kingdom of Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. Biggest payday ever, I think, for a match in pro wrestling. So that's pretty exciting. Hats off to you, Brock. You obviously know how to negotiate quite well and know the value of what you bring to the table. But Rey Mysterio back in action. It is very, very exciting stuff. Cannot wait to see how it all develops. Hey, the other topic I want to talk about here real quick today on this podcast is Vince McMahon trying to kill the G1 Supercard, my friends? Well, the rumor roundup has it that he's not. So PW Insider is reporting that there is no substance whatsoever to the rumors of Vince McMahon meeting with Madison Square Garden regarding the effort to nix the ROH and New Japan and G1 Supercard that's on WrestleMania weekend. According to the report, Vince has never met or contacted any officials about the matter. Now, folks, here's what I'd like to ask you, the BWP Nation. Let us know on Twitter what you think. Let us know on Instagram what you think. Would Vince McMahon call up his friends at Madison Square Garden to nix the Ring of Honor, New Japan, G1 Supercard, WrestleMania weekend? It's April the 6th, 2019. I'm going to try to make that as well. I'm going to see if I can make it all there that WrestleMania weekend. It's going to be great. I think it's smart for the G1 Supercard to be obviously in that area. There's going to be a lot of spillover, and they're able to just gain momentum. They're able to connect with fans. They're able to connect with people internationally because everybody's going to be coming for WrestleMania. So, I mean, it's brilliant on their part to have a mega card there. I think what you're seeing that creates the turmoil, that creates the controversy, that creates the friction is that it's in Madison Square Garden. And I think a lot of people in the pro wrestling community know that that's Big Daddy Vinnie Mac's place. Like, that's the home of WWE. So I don't think Vince McMahon likes that this card is going to be there. And I've heard numerous times before that Vince McMahon has a lot of connections with Madison Square Garden, and he can veto things all the time. It's interesting because myself and Jonathan, we were talking about this topic probably about 4 weeks before this card was announced. And when I heard this card was announced, I felt like it was a bit of a punch to Vince McMahon or to the WWE, a little bit of a competitive nudge, if you will, having it at Madison Square Garden, because that, once again, we all know that that's the home of WWE. And so I think there's been many occasions before where Vinnie Mac has vetoed different events being there. And I'm sure Jonathan, with his historical knowledge, would be able to fill us in on exactly what those times were. I also heard that a lot of shows sometimes don't end up going there, and Jonathan would be the guy to ask about this. We talked about this on a podcast before, but apparently taxes are crazy there. So the costs of having something at Madison Square Garden are a lot higher, which is very interesting. So let us know what you think. I would not be surprised if Vince McMahon is trying to sabotage the G1 Supercard, but let us know what you think on Twitter. Let us know what you think on Instagram. Let us know what you think by just hitting us up any way that you can. That is all for today, folks. I wanted to review those 3 topics. Once again, I am alive and well. Rey Mysterio is back in action very shortly for 2 full years. Super exciting stuff. And hey, it's a question for you today. Is Vince McMahon trying to kill the G1 Supercard? A lot of rumors going around. Once again, today, PW Insider is reporting that there's no substance whatsoever to the rumors that Vince McMahon had a meeting with Madison Square Garden officials. But you let us know what you think. A lot of these times, these reports are not correct. Sometimes it's just a little bit of PR to get people off the topic. But I want to ask the BWP universe what you think. Guys, once again, this is Best Wrestling Podcast. I'm so excited to be back. This is a solo episode today. You're hanging out with me, Matt Fitzgerald, here in the BWP studio. But myself and Jonathan, the co-tag team audio champion, is going to be back in action with me very, very shortly this week, and it is going to be awesome. We got a lot to talk about. We got to talk about the super showdown and Triple H and The Undertaker. We got to talk about Crown Jewel coming up and what is this WWE World Cup. We got to talk about basically, getting on the road to WrestleMania here right away. Coming into, time is going by really, really quickly. We got to talk about this G1 Supercard. There is a lot to talk about. We got to talk about how The Miz should beat Daniel Bryan and The Miz should be the champion because he's one of the best people on the roster today. That's my opinion. So a lot of things to talk about. Where can you find us? Hit us up on iTunes. Hit us up on Google Play. We're on Stitcher. We're on Podbean. We're on Spotify. We're everywhere you can get your podcast love. But if you could give us a review or a rating on iTunes, that would mean the world to us. And why iTunes? Because it's weighed heavily, in the podcast world, meaning that if you give us a review on iTunes, it really helps the rankings. But hell, engage with us on social media too. That helps everybody in the Google search and the SEO world. So once again, Matt Fitzgerald signing off, BWP. Check out us on Instagram. Check us out on all your podcast providers. And stay tuned for when myself and Jonathan are back in studio. Friends, this is Best Wrestling Podcast. And yes, we've only just begun.